blam, blam to shot in your head, your body full of lead, the boy drop, dead. Yeah, did you hear what I said about my friend that got shot? Dead.
There's a war going on. It's a war against a mindless cult. A cult that has infected some of our young people all over London. It's the cult of the gun.
Since I left school, I've lost over 5 friends. You know, either been shot or stabbed.
He was shot cold-bloodedly. Anybody that shoots anyone in the back, you know, I think that's a coward.
As we lifted my shirt, realised it was quite a wound, a bullet wound.
He pulled the trigger and I was shot in the left side of my head.
21 people were murdered in black-on-black shootings last year. So far this year, the number stands at 7 dead. And 42 people have been victims of non-fatal shootings. Often these incidents happen at packed nightclubs or in the street. The reasons? Anything from gang warfare over drugs to something as trivial as stepping on someone's shoe. This gun violence is London-wide, although there are hotspots.
This is Murder Mile in Hackney, the borough with one of the worst records for shootings. Gun crime is raging across the capital, and most of it involving young black men shooting other young black men. We've been finding out who's responsible, why it's happening, and what on earth the police and the rest of us, as a community, can do about it.
My son has been held up at gunpoint on Upper Clapton Road, having to run for his life, literally. And he's not a small man. He's 6 foot and yay wide, but threatened with a gun pointed at him. My other son had seen the same thing in Clubland. I can do a murder tour and not take you more than half a mile from where we're sitting. We've just come out of Warwick Grove onto Upper Clapton Road, which is now infamously known as the Murder Mile. And sadly, there's reason for that. As we come and we approach the petrol station here on our left, that's where Mena, a young man of 21 years old from the Afro-Caribbean community, was shot dead by gunmen on a motorcycle. Not only shot him dead, but then filled up with petrol before they left. A club over there was an incident where gunshot was fired. Murder here at this corner, right outside this shop. And right over here, where you see these cars parked, Kenny Rowe was murdered, again by pillion-riding assassins with helmets so they can't be recognized. Right here where this car was, shot while sitting in his car. This is not something we read about in our newspapers or hear on the television. We're living it. There used to be a time where the status symbol was a pair of 70, 80-pound trainers or even a mobile phone, but now it's become the gun. And we've got to do something desperately, got to do something now.
Danny Williams is a man who needs no gun. He's the British and Commonwealth heavyweight champion, and he's one of Brixton's best. But he's seen London's gun crime at close quarters.
I've been to a few clubs and I've seen people shot dead. I was in a club once and a guy was waving a gun about. I didn't know, I was walking towards him and, you know, the gun was pointing at my head. He was pointing at someone else and I was walking in the firing line, so, you know, I could have easily got shot myself. So I've been involved in a few gun incidents myself. Innocent people are now getting guns to protect themselves. That's how bad things are getting. That, you know, that's why I say things are only getting worse.
This man, DJ Village, real name Horace Pinnock, was a gun crime victim.
Number 1.
A talented 29-year-old Jamaican-born reggae DJ, he was shot and killed last November. At one time, he used to stand in at Radio 1 and was friends with DJ stars like Tim Westwood, seen here. Westwood was himself shot and wounded 3 years ago while driving back from a gig in South London. DJ Village was seen arguing with a group of men at a hotel in the early hours.
The confrontation with those people apparently led to his death. You know, he tried to get away from them. Someone went by and shot him in the back. He stumbled as far as the hotel and then he fell down. He fell, the doors hit his head and he was pronounced dead in the ambulance, I think.
DJ Village was driving a big Jamaican reggae star called Elephant Man, who was in Britain to promote his new album. Both were robbed at gunpoint in the hotel car park, and more than £10,000 in cash was taken from Elephant Man an hour before DJ Village was shot. Later, he lay dying in the hotel entrance.
They've taken away my friend. Because even though we're family, we were friends. And more than anything else, they've taken away that friendship. I could ring him, he could ring me. He rang me to make sure I was all right. Sometimes he rang me in the morning. He rang me every evening. You know, they've taken away my friend, my best friend.
Both Westwood and fellow Radio 1 DJ Chris Goldfinger, seen here on stage, attended DJ Village's benefit night in January.
We all wish, deepest condolences again to the family. We're glad for the turnout. I'm sure Village will be proud.
The family used the occasion to make a plea to end gun crime.
All the people are here because we love DJ Village. Please don't let him die in vain. The black on black killing has to stop. It has to stop. There has to be an end to it. Don't let Village's life be a useless life. He lived his life to the full, and he should have still been here with us today. We should be here celebrating his death.
Between 6 and 10 people were present when DJ Village was shot, but the police have so far been unable to charge anyone with his murder.
Those people that killed you, they didn't know the loving, generous side of you, or that you was a father of 2, and that you had a mum, dad, sisters and brothers that truly loved you.
The DJ Village killing is one of those being investigated by the Met's Operation Trident, set up 4 years ago in response to black-on-black gun crime. Analysis of cases shows a lot of it originates in Jamaica, with its gun-mad gangs.
30% of the people who have died as a result of firearms are Jamaicans. And it's a similar number in terms of ratio for those that we've arrested. Now, clearly that is a worrying factor. And what we see, though, are very clear links between Jamaican communities in this country and back to Jamaica.
Richard White, 21, was executed by shots to the head on Cold Harbour Lane in Brixton, directly because of a gang dispute which started in the ghettos of Kingston, Jamaica.
It's alleged that this disagreement was over a designer pair of sunglasses. The result of that disagreement led to a number of different gun battles. We believe a total of about 30. And as a result of those gun battles, our victim decided to leave Jamaica and come to London because he feared being shot.
The cult of the gun gangs is a way of life in Jamaica, and it claimed more than 500 lives last year.
Unfortunately, the violence seems to have spilled over from the streets of Kingston into the streets of London, and he was quite clearly sought out and callously murdered. We're very grateful to the witnesses who came forward, who not only gave us an explanation of what happened and who had committed this crime, but subsequently went to court displaying great courage to give evidence.
Richard White was gunned down in the middle of Brixton. Plenty of other people could have been caught in the crossfire. There were 200 black-on-black shooting incidents last year, and that meant London hospitals having to deal with the consequences. Many of the wounded end up here at the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel. Consultant Mike Walsh went to Soweto in South Africa to learn how to treat these severe trauma injuries.
The commonest type are the handgun injuries, but we also see shotgun injuries and occasional high-velocity rounds from rifles. But the type of injuries we see encompasses the whole body, and we may see gunshots in the head or the chest and the abdomen or in the limbs, and quite not infrequently multiple gunshots in the same patient.
Walsh and his team expect to see 1 or 2 gunshot victims a week. Sometimes it's 5 or 6. 10 years ago, it was only 1 every 2 months, if that.
This is a chap who's had a gunshot injury to the head, and looking at the X-ray taken from the side, you can see the bullet just here, and if you're looking at the X-ray taken from the front, you can see the bullet here lodged at the base of the brain.
So what are your chances if you happen to be the victim of a shooting in the street?
If you're shot, say, in the abdomen and you involve one of the major blood vessels in the abdomen, your chances of survival may only be 30%. And if you're shot in the head and involving the brain, less than 5%.
Ex-boxer David Fergus is a miraculous exception. He's lucky to be alive, having been shot at close range with a shotgun. With supreme courage, he's been able to overcome his terrible injuries.
He pulled the trigger and I was shot in the left side of my head. What ripped bits of flesh from the left side of my temple and ripped into my left eye. Anyone can pull a trigger. It don't take much. Don't take a lion heart to pull a trigger. It takes a bloody mouse to pull a trigger.
The black community is determined to rid itself of the gun-toting criminals who threaten everyone. And in part 2, we'll hear that vital debate. Young people tell me how they've experienced gun crime in their daily lives. And I discover how easy it is to buy a gun similar to the one that sent So Solid crew star Asher D to jail.
You are born to be a winner, not a hustler. Because there's always someone that wants to be better than you. Brandishing a telephone scar that makes them think that they are the one. Next bad man starts carrying, so what do? You go and get a gun. And blam, blam, fill someone up with lead.
London's gun culture is fueled by the easy availability and affordability of illegal weapons. Operation Trident, the Met's campaign against black-on-black crime, seized 129 firearms last year. 5% of them were like this one, blank-firing starting pistols, illegally converted to fire live ammunition. I visited this shop to find out how easy it is to buy a similar one.
In sports shops like the one behind me, there are on sale air pistols and starting pistols, which experts tell me can be converted to fire live ammunition. Now, this is a starting pistol that I've just bought for £35. It fires blanks, but it could so easily be lethal.
Firearms expert Charles Jacoby explained how simple it was to convert my gun.
Well, to convert this, anybody with a steady hand could punch this out and then you have a lethal weapon and you would get a gun which could fire 1, 2, 3, 6 shots. But this is very soft metal, it's going to peel apart. It may be for whatever you're up to, you only need 1 shot. Banning these things is not going to make the slightest bit of difference to that.
In March, So Solid crew star Asher D, real name Ashley Walters, was jailed for 18 months for possessing a loaded, illegally converted Brocock starting pistol. It was in his car, tucked into his girlfriend's handbag, because, he said, he feared being attacked.
I think it sets an appalling example. Here you have a young man who is very clearly in the public eye, who is a role model perhaps for other youngsters in and around London, and here you have him in possession of a loaded pistol in a public place. People in that position need to be condemning those people who use violence and who are creating difficulties and trauma and tragedy within the communities that they come from.
The MP for Hackney, which includes Murder Mile, has no doubt what the court should do.
I want the government to increase the minimum penalty for being caught with a firearm. I think it should be at least 5 years. You can be caught with 2 guns stuck in your waistband, do 18 months and be out after 9 months. Now that's no disincentive at all, so we want much tougher penalties for people that go out tooled up.
Trouble with a capital T seems to follow So Solid around. Neutrino, one of the crew's other stars, was shot in the leg a year ago at a gig, and there have been stabbings in the audience when they have appeared. An air of irrational violence now pervades some major gigs featuring other artists, and it's putting at risk kids who go to them. We asked a group on this Dalston estate about their experiences of gun crime at dance halls and clubs.
On the top balcony, someone let off a gunshot, and all of a sudden, like you could see the smoke going everywhere, and like all of a sudden, the whole crowd just disappeared off into their own little groups.
Let's talk about this concert. What happened at this?
All I saw is everyone screaming and panicking, and like some big, massive machete about this big. I don't know how it got in. And machete, two of them. I couldn't believe how they got in. And then afterwards, we were just about to walk out. Yeah, all I heard was bang. Everyone was. I didn't even know where to run. No, there was one bullet hole. That was
They
it.
told us to stay in there.
All right, Kadisha, tell me what's it about?
I reckon that it's about society. At the end of the day, I reckon that everyone feels nowadays that when they're walking on the road, they have to be bad or they have to come across like as if they got people or whatever. Because nowadays it's getting bad. And the music as well.
The music that they're listening to, some people can't actually separate the music that they're like. For instance, if they're hearing Soul Solid say, they're shooting people with gats and all this, they can't actually separate it. They think they have to go on street with their boys or into a rave.
Or have a gun.
Like,
So you're in a situation where it seems to me that this is just like, well, is it? Is it just a kind of part of life now? Someone's going to get shot.
People believe that it's all black and all that. It ain't, man.
But then
everyone's doing it now, and it's only because there's a lot of. I'll tell you the honest good truth. It's only because there's a lot of black garage groups out there that are making it now. Everyone's trying to bring them down.
Would it stop you going to places?
Yeah.
Would it?
Yeah, it does.
So, Mark, what difference does it make to your life?
Because, like, say there's been like certain shootings at certain groups, you would think if I go there's more of a chance of like a gun being pulled out. Because if you go like think about So Solid, so much like guns have been put with their name that you wouldn't really think about going to see So Solid because you might think that like a gun will get pulled out of the rave or whatever.
All right, what about you, Keisha? Has it changed where you'd go, who you'd go
No,
with?
because I don't go raves to watch other people. It's when you keep yourself to yourself. That's what you're basically out to do. It's people who go there and they look at you and then you think to yourself, are you really honestly coming out not to have fun? You get me?
When you go to these clubs, there's too much hype. There's too much people looking at you in a bad way.
What about you, Justin?
I don't really go raving apart from if a lot of people are going, or I don't even really go to any of the big ones because they're where you catch the most violence.
There's supposed to be good security on the doors of major venues. At some, like the Forum in North London, where Jamaican star Bounty Killer performed recently, it's tight and body searches are rigorous. But in other places, the guns still get in. We've been told that sometimes the entourage and hangers-on of music stars have taken in weapons themselves, having refused body searches. In order to prevent an incident, they're let through. But an incident did happen here at the Rex Theatre in Stratford, East London, when security tried to search two men. Richard Parkinson, a security guard, was gunned down in a hail of bullets as he tried to stop two men getting into a concert featuring Jamaican music star Beanie Man. They were not part of the star's crew and objected to being searched at the door. Laura was in the box office when it happened.
I just heard a loud commotion. I heard what sounded like fireworks. The security started to quickly close the doors and all I could hear these men shouting was, "Quick, close the doors, close the doors." I just stood there and said, I think I've been shot. As we lifted my shirt, realised it was quite a wound, a bullet wound. This particular security guy had actually been shot. Seeing that body lying there, and as they were trying to resuscitate him, seeing his stomach pump up and down, and then at one point they thought they had him, and they kept trying, then they realised they'd lost him. And to know and then to see the red blanket cover him up, and to know that was somebody earlier on, we'd all been laughing, joking and what have you, now he's lying there never to make a joke or laugh again. It was very, very frightening.
This man, Vincent Atkins, was one of two men arrested and charged with Richard Parkinson's murder and later acquitted at the Old Bailey. Mr. Atkins, a former criminal, was an invited guest to a specially recorded edition of the Schumann Shuffle radio show on Choice FM, London's leading black station. The subject, gun crime.
This is the Schumann Shuffle special. It's time for us to all talk sharp on a matter that affects us all. Tell me something, Vince. How dangerous were you in your mind?
Put it this way, I was most probably one of the most dangerous black men you would ever want to meet. 3 years ago, I was incarcerated, and that turned my life around completely. I said, now I am giving my life to God. Coming into the house of the Lord has took all my evil thoughts and actions away and presented me with this gift I've got now to talk to the youngsters, to say the life on the street is no good.
How are we going to take guns off the streets?
You're going to take it off the street by being absolutely and totally holistic. We are people.
How?
You cannot attack it from just the police.
Right.
You cannot attack it from just economics.
Yes.
You cannot attack it from just education or housing or any of that. You have to do it all together, all at once.
Mr. Sellers said that the Trident has arrested over 500 people. I don't think there's anything to celebrate. The police are very good at arresting black people. That's right. We are disproportionately stopped and searched.
But can I say,
our people are dying, and they're dying in ignorance. You know, when the police boast about how many people they've arrested. Well, it's easy, because the type of crimes and the black on black crime that you are witnessing, it's not sophisticated. That's right. You're talking about really small-minded and very ignorant people. People who are young, impressionable. They feast on pure horror and madness every single day. I'm afraid to let my children watch the television. That's the kind of world and environment that we live in.
What I believe is one of the reasons why there's the gun problem is an issue of power, people feeling powerless, young black men feeling, because of the institutional problems of education and poverty and the rest of it, some way of feeling power is, yeah, I've got a gun, I can stand up for myself, I can do something on the street. So that's how you get into that situation.
We need, at the end of the day, to stand side by side with each other to combat this crime, this epidemic that's burning our streets, and it's called murder, it's called killing, it's called erasing our own black men and women. The moral fibre of our community is being eroded, and it starts from within the home. Let's begin to educate and now teach our children about love, kindness and peace, but ultimately respect for yourself, respect for others, and respect for your parents and teachers as well. That, unfortunately, is all we have time for on this Human Shuffle special. We've had our say, now you have yours. Thank you.
The police know they cannot deal with black-on-black gun crime alone. They need help from all of us.
Those communities exist in our society, and we should have some responsibility to make sure that it is this London problem, that by acting as a society that creates this environment which is hostile to the offender, then we can have some confidence that we will be able to overcome it.
Ultimately, the buck stops with the government, and London MPs will not let them forget it.
What I'm going to be asking him to do is to raise the minimum sentence for going armed with a gun, and also to introduce legislation to ban imitation firearms, and also to make sure that the Treasury makes the money available so that we can have the numbers of police on the streets in London that we need to deal with gun crime.
I walk armed, but my mouth is my gun and my words is my bullets. My tongue is my trigger, so let me just pull it.